Thank you.
Good to see you, as always. Please have a seat.
Thank you.
Okay, so the creatives industries and culture is one of those things where people aren't always sure how to manage and think about it or approach it. How is SVC approaching these two aspects of this incredible industry?
Sure. First of all, I would like to congratulate you actually on your great achievements, and Africa Voices on all the great achievements, and I'm lovely actually to be with you on stage again. I think definitely SVC, when we started actually to stimulate venture capital and private equity actually investments in Saudi Arabia through the program 2018, we were since then sector agnostic and stage agnostic. So the journey of a startup or an SME from pre-seed to pre-IPO, we tried to fuel these companies through our programs. And luckily, actually, we were doing an underlying portfolio analysis of the portfolio we have. We have more than 20 plus, I would say, companies that are falling within the cultural sectors. And maybe we'll talk more about these companies later, but I think this is very important. It complements the different funding and financing solutions, and that's very crucial and important to the ecosystem to grow and thrive when it comes to the cultural sectors. And I think since we started actually, if we just shed the light on some of the highlights, the total deployed capital 2018 investing in startups in Saudi Arabia was only $60 million, 60. And that reached 2023, $1.4 billion. And this year we're actually gonna surpass that highest number since then. And I think that's almost 21x when you see how this is progressive. I claim we are, if not the fastest, the fastest actually ecosystem when it comes to supporting startups and SMEs. But part of this movement actually, which is sparked out of Vision 2030, how SMEs and startups are crucial and important to the ecosystem, and definitely the cultural sectors and subsectors are pillars of these actually sectors that are relevant to some of the companies and startups that we have back through our program. Our program, mainly 90% we're doing a fund of funds, so invest in funds. We are unlocking and attracting and encouraging and stimulating local, regional, and international investors to join the scene and add value to the ecosystem. Yeah. And then that's actually very crucial to fuel these actually companies that are focused on the cultural sectors.
So when you talk about that 21x growth in investment capital, that demonstrates not just growth, but also aggression in the sense that you're very aggressively pursuing this particular sector.
100%.
So for you, when you're assessing, what is it about this industry that you view as being attractive and that you think is a worthy investment when you're looking at long term? Because investment is never about what happens in the next 12 months or 36 months.
100%. So actually the nature of venture investment or investment in SMEs and startups actually with growth potential, it's the riskiest asset class. So based on that, actually, this is where SVC was created actually to de-risk the funding and financing for these companies at the very early stage, and then help them to grow and also fill the gaps when it comes to growth funding, pre-E funding, pre-IPO funding. So from pre-seed to pre-IPO, you need to make sure that we created an army of investment firms that are deal sourcing, fueling, and adding value to these companies. Since inception, we invested, for example, in 63 funds. These 63 funds are local, regional, international, with one requirement: equal amount of the ticket we invest in these funds has to be deployed locally in Saudi Arabia. And that includes local, regional, and international funds, but also it attracts homegrown companies to scale beyond Saudi Arabia, across the GCC, across the MENA region, and also inviting global companies, startups, and SMEs to scale into Saudi Arabia. So that's the spin out, and the spin in is very crucial to build a vibrant ecosystem.
Let's then talk a little bit more about that. One of the things that I've appreciated about Saudi Arabia is that there's a very deliberate effort, there's a very concerted drive to promote cultural and creative industries domestically. But if we go beyond the domestic space, there is also an appreciation that you want to be able to access other markets. It's easier for markets to access Saudi Arabia now, but that's not necessarily reciprocated outside of the border, which means that there needs to be a conversation about policy frameworks, both domestically, which are quite open, but also globally, so that you can do that cross-border exchange. What needs to happen in terms of that global policy framework?
Yeah, I think we were lucky that since Vision 2030 launched, we are one of the fastest countries when it comes to regulations, updates, and policies, and if not the fastest. And that's very crucial because if the ecosystem is friendly for entrepreneurs and also investors, investing in these entrepreneurs are very crucial to help them to grow and scale their companies. And I remember like the fund management regulations by the Capital Market Authority, the Central Bank, the Insurance Authority, but also the Ministry of Commerce, where they did the new company law. We were actually asked what are the gaps and needs for entrepreneurs to have a friendly ecosystem to help them to build and scale their companies. And that was very, very crucial to debug, I would say, some of the regulations to make sure that they are friendly for founders and funders, because that will actually let investors put more money, not only the local, also you invite also international investors. And this is actually, the result of this is also affecting how regional other countries actually, we try to share notes on what are the things we did to make sure that we're providing a friendly ecosystem when it comes to regulations and policies, because that's going to help these companies to be built and scaled. But also, I think, helping these companies to grow beyond Saudi Arabia across GCC or MENA and potentially actually going global, which is very crucial. I can shed the light on two key things happened actually, that we have 2 venture-backed companies being listed in the public market, and that's very helpful for the ecosystem because that will recycle the money to be funding more companies in all sectors, specifically the cultural sector. But also we witnessed top-tier investors globally like Sequoia, General Atlantic, General Catalyst, Wellington, investing in Saudi homegrown companies here in Saudi Arabia. And that's another signal how the ecosystem is evolving and thriving, and not only helping local fund managers, investors, but also attracting international investors to invest in local homegrown companies. And I would like to shed the light in some of the examples. So our portfolio, I would say, includes 20 to 30 plus companies when it comes to the cultural sector. We're so proud of being the first backers and investors of Telfaz 11, for instance. We invested in them indirectly and directly, founded by Ala Fadel, an amazing Saudi entrepreneur. And now the company has scaled and grown actually when it comes to the film industry and in general and the media. And they have been creating content, being distributed across the multi-channels, including local cinemas and regional cinemas. I would love also to touch point on another company that we are so proud investing in, which is Nota Nota. It's actually a platform to digitize the design, creation of perfumes. So that's actually part of also the, I would say, the fashion industry at large. Abadia is another American company founded by an amazing Saudi female entrepreneur, Shahad al-Shahel. And also we have Tafi. It's a platform to connect stylists with customers, founded by, again, Saudi amazing entrepreneur, Shahad al-Jafri. And now this company is actually growing fast and has been, we backed them actually at the very early stage. And now I think it's reaching where multiple funds we invested in, already invested in this company. And the list goes on and on. That's actually including fashion, the film industry, the content. We are so proud also another company actually focusing on the digital content And the outcome of this company now being broadcasted actually at the Saudi Airlines, actually, when you go to have some audio content and digital content in general. Many companies, I'm so proud of our portfolio companies, about companies in the cultural sector being built in Saudi Arabia and now expanding regionally and globally.
So when you're looking at the policy frameworks, is there something that you think, not necessarily what has to be different domestically, but what has to be different globally alongside how you're developing to easier facilitate the exchange that you're talking about? Because scaling domestically is one thing, but globally is not necessarily that easy because policy frameworks are not cohesive and
100%,
standard.
100%. And we have been actually doing multiple venues actually to exchange experiences with regional players when it comes at least for the venture and private equity investments activities. And that's very crucial. Whether it's in closed doors or actually open conferences or platforms in the GCC or the MENA region, sharing notes is very crucial. What are the, I would say, updates that happened in country X or Y that really helped the ecosystem to unleash the potential of entrepreneurs to launch their company and grow their companies. Yeah. And this unlocking or unleashing is very crucial because it actually drags the whole ecosystem into a thriving ecosystem. And that moves the ecosystem from a nascent market into an emerging market into a more mature market when it comes to investment in startups and SMEs.
Yes. And that support is absolutely crucial. I'm not allowed to let you go, at least I don't think I'm allowed to let you go, until I ask you about valuation.
Sure.
Because that is one of the hiccups. I mean, you spoke earlier about this need of de-risking, and that is a perpetual theme that we have when we're looking at valuation and the risk that a lot of private equity or VC organizations struggle with.
Sure.
How do you deal with the valuation question? Because granted, you're there to help in the de-risking. That's not necessarily how you want to remain forever because you're not going to be able to necessarily absorb the entire market further down the line.
Sure. So mainly our program is the backers of the backers. We want to make sure that the backers, and what I mean the backers are the fund managers on the investment firms that we backed, that they are disciplined when they are doing valuations. But not only, it's a double-sided issue, which is actually where also the side of the entrepreneur or the founder of the company. What's interesting, actually, we went through multiple hiccups during the last 6 years, especially post-COVID, when the valuations went too high. But I think this is one of the hard lessons that actually learned founders and funders to be careful when it comes to valuations. Yeah. Because that's going to hinder the growth of the companies for future investment rounds or growth potential. And not only the equity side of investment, but also the debt side. So if you want to have your company growing and scaling, you need to be disciplined as a founder or an investor in a company. Overvaluation always hinders the growth of the company on the long run because that's going to hinder the future funding rounds. And that need to be definitely, I can see now founders and funders are being more disciplined, I would say, when it comes to valuation because they witnessed the hiccup happened, especially post-COVID when all valuations of companies went very high, too high, and that's actually hindered their growth potential.
To what extent do you think a solution to part of this valuation question, particularly from the owners and founders, may lie in strategic use of IP and content ownership, so that there's a recognition that even if the product necessarily isn't valued at what I think it should be valued, the value may lie in the prolonged use use and valuation in the IP and the ownership itself. So that gives you the revenue driver over the next decade or two.
100%. Although the product and the service offering you're offering and how this is attractive to the customers and the market, the most important thing, I mean, because market tractions is very crucial. Definitely alongside doing this growth and protection and the licensing of your IPs is very crucial to be done in a manner, actually a disciplined manner, because that's going to help also definitely that's going to affect your valuation of the company, but also I would say the commercialization of the IP needs to be done in a disciplined way to make sure that you're utilizing the IP commercialization activities to help this company grow and scale.
And it allows you to leverage that aspect, which I think
100%.
oftentimes we forget because we're so focused on the product.
100%.
Right?
100%.
Yeah. I always love talking to you, Nabeel. It's always such a pleasure.
Likewise, thank you.
But we've run out of time, believe it or not. That was really quick.
Yeah.
Thank you so very much.
Pleasure.
It's been a pleasure. Thanks for the insight and for the continued leadership. And I think it's a great attribute.
Pleasure. And definitely, I believe we are still scratching the surface in terms of investing and funding cultural sector-focused companies. I think there are more to be done, and I want just to recognize the efforts of the Ministry of Culture and also the Cultural Development Fund, where they're doing a great job now fueling, because funding is very crucial to the ecosystem, and what we call the risk capital, the patient capital, always unlocks amazing entrepreneurs and innovators in the cultural sector.
So exciting. Can't wait to see what you're going to do. Ladies and gentlemen, Dr. Nabeel Koushak.
Thank you.
Always such a pleasure. Thank you. Thank you very much.